Welcome to the Lady Up America podcast. I'm Diane Canada, your host. I'm so glad you're here today. Today is Thursday. It is May 30th. And the verdict just came in, ladies. They, in New York, have just found Trump guilty on all 34 counts in this trial. I am not even going to sugarcoat it. We are in trouble as a nation. Let's talk about it today. Let's break it down and let's formulate our Lady Up response to this travesty today. Be right back.
Lady up around this town. Lady up around this town. Victory on the battleground. We claim it now. Lady up, lady up. Lady up, lady up.
Okay, even though we knew this was the likely outcome, I'm still in a state of shock that we are in America. It is becoming unrecognizable at this point. I'm going to quickly break down the unbelievable deck that was stacked against Trump on this, but I don't want to spend too much time on that because, we're about solutions here and I want to talk about what can be done and what we can do in response to this. We are not helpless. I want to remind us before I do this that we are already operating from a place of victory in Christ. So God works all things together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. So even though this looks horrific, and it is horrific, God can bring good out of it. And I believe that with all of my heart. That verse in Romans has gotten me through many, many, many valleys in my life. And so whether you've been following this case or not, it's important that you understand what happened today, because when we go to talk about this in our normal conversations, because this will be the topic of conversation for the foreseeable future leading up to the election, you need to know how to talk about it intelligently, and you need to understand the proper response that we need to take as members of this community in Lady Up America. So let's break it down for just a minute. Let's talk about how, first of all, we have something in our country called the rule of law. The rule of law is basically the takeaway from that I always share. It's one of our load-bearing walls of our country. I always talk about the 7 founding values, which are interwoven in our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, all of that. They're basically come down to these 7 load-bearing walls, one of them being rule of law. Rule of law, the takeaway is that what's good for the goose should be good for the gander, that no one is above the law, that everyone should be treated equally and in a just way. So we look at this case, and there were so many ways that this was unjust. First of all, the case was not even a felony case. This case was Trump's former attorney, which didn't even make it into the White House when he was elected. This was someone that Trump kind of saw the handwriting on the wall with this guy and did not bring him into the White House. But early on, when he was still campaigning, he was serving on his team as an attorney. He, in my opinion, was looking to gain favor with Trump. He was trying to do anything he could to secure a seat in the White House should he get elected. There was a case that was brought, or that was threatening to be brought, by an adult film participant. I won't even call her a star, but she was someone who made adult films, Stormy Daniels. She was threatening to expose an affair that she says happened between her and Trump. These kinds of things happen all the time. When someone's on the rise, then somebody comes out and tries to benefit, financially from some kind of blackmail. This happens all the time. I've seen it up close and personal in politics. It happens all the time. So Michael Cohen is on record saying to his own attorney that he didn't believe her, that he didn't think there was any teeth to the case at all, but that he wanted to squash it because he didn't want it to be a source of embarrassment for Melania. So what we heard in testimony, and what we've heard from his former attorney, who testified to Congress very eloquently, explained that Cohen took out a mortgage on his own home, unbeknownst to his wife, to kind of squash the story. I think he was trying to take care of it for Trump. That's why they call him the fixer. One of the reasons, probably. He wanted to take care of it for Trump and gain favor from Trump. Look, I took care of this for you. I'm the big man. I took care of it. So he takes out a mortgage on his own home, pays her to go away so that it is not a source of embarrassment on the campaign trail, hoping that will win him favor with Trump. Later, down the line, after Trump is already in office, so it has nothing to do with election interference because this money didn't have to be reported until after he was already elected. Cohen sends him an invoice for a lot of stuff and includes this money that he wanted to be reimbursed for paying off this adult film participant, Stormy Daniels. Trump is going through and he's signing a bunch of checks. He doesn't know what it's just listed on his books as legal expenses. That's all. His lawyer is submitting an invoice to him for legal expenses. He doesn't know about this issue with paying off this woman. So he pays it. Now, all these years later, and that happened before he was even elected in 2016. So all these years later, the case was brought up and the DOJ squashed it. They said there's nothing here. There's nothing to prosecute. The former DA said there's nothing to prosecute. Nobody wanted to bring this case because there was no crime. But you have a Soros-backed DA in New York in Alvin Bragg who campaigned on a promise that he was going to take Trump down. He was going to get Trump. First of all, what have we become in America that instead of focusing on what you're going to do as a district attorney and keeping your citizens safe, instead you're campaigning on getting someone that you hate and that you're trying to get everyone else to hate. That's sick. Okay, number one. But this very ambitious rogue Soros-backed, and I say George Soros is funding a lot of the chaos in our country. He's behind BLM. He's behind Antifa. He's behind so many of these DAs that are letting criminals run free and all this cashless bail. Look it up. But George Soros pumps a lot of money into district attorney campaigns to help get them elected so then he can pull their puppet strings and cause chaos and disassemble our country. This is going on all over our country. And he is trained up his son now to take over when he finally kicks the bucket. So you've got Bragg now, who is bragging on getting Trump, and he goes in, resurrects this case that has no meat on the bone at all. Not only does he resurrect it, but he's completely out of his jurisdiction because what he's trying to say is that this bookkeeping issue is now election interference. So he's trying to prosecute a federal crime saying that this was election interference in the sense that he was trying to squash the Stormy Daniels story so that it wouldn't get out and wouldn't affect his ability to get elected. He's like stretching that into a felony now. And if it is a federal case, if it is a felony at the federal level, he's completely out of his jurisdiction to even be able to prosecute that. He's a state DA. So he has no grounds to even bring this case. Okay, that's number one. Number two, they put the case right in the heart of New York. They are like massive Trump haters. They put it in a place where Trump has like less than 5%, I want to say, of support in that area. So what are the chances that you're going to have a fair trial when you put it in the heart of a place that absolutely hates him? Okay, so that's the second thing. Now, on top of that, the judges are supposed to be selected randomly to preside over cases. This judge was hand selected and the reason I believe that is because he also oversaw two other cases that involved Trump, or even in the peripheral, the Bannon case and one other case. I can't remember who it was, but there was a collection of cases that hurt Trump. So then on top of that, we find out that he is a Biden donor and his daughter is benefiting. She's a fundraiser, raising millions and millions of dollars for the Democrat Party. So talk about compromised in the judge. Okay, then let's talk about the DOJ. A person who was third in command at the Department of Justice left his post and came down to sit at the prosecution table and be a part of this trial. So that should tell you everything you need to know about the fact that Biden was likely behind on orchestrating, or at least his administration orchestrating a lot of this. We already know that the Department of Justice has been weaponized in ways we've never seen in our country. And now you're going to put one of their top brass at the prosecution table. Guys, we have turned a corner in our country. Now it gets worse. We go through the trial now, and the judge literally opens up the floodgates of opportunity for these witnesses to come forward that are caught in lies, that are rambling on about things that have nothing to do with the case, that are just for the shock and awe purpose for the jury. They're just put on the stand to fuel that hate that the jurors already likely have for Trump. Without any limit on what they can share, Stormy Daniels got up there and shared cringeworthy things that are likely are not even true, but shared them just to kind of, stir the pot basically in the hearts and the minds of the jurors. Michael Cohen, the lawyer that orchestrated this whole thing, their star witness, is a convicted liar, a perjurer, someone who he'll lie when the truth sounds better, and has been caught in them. Was caught in them on the stand by the defense attorney and his own attorney, Michael Cohen's attorney, the one I talked about earlier. He tried to come and testify to basically prove that, to debunk a lot of what Cohen had said and this whole thing with Stormy Daniels. And the judge would barely even let him speak. He shut down at almost every opportunity that the guy had to share helpful testimony for Trump. Then the Federal Election Commission expert, someone who works for the FEC, was going to be called by the defense, by Trump's team, as an expert witness to prove that these allegations that they have, this crime they're trying to create, is non-existent, and the judge would not even let him testify. Then, after the closing arguments were brought, which again, the judge let the prosecution go on all day long, literally on the closing arguments, they were reaching, could present no clear crime that had been committed, no clear crime. Then lets the jury go home over Memorial Day weekend. In a case like this, with the most important president we've ever had, lets them go home to their friends and family where they can again kind of get refueled for their hate for him. This jury should have been sequestered. This jury should have been, first of all, the verdict should have been demanded then, close to the closing arguments. But he lets them go home for almost a week and then come back to deliberate. And then it doesn't even give them their instructions until the very last minute. And the instructions are vague at best and literally says you don't have to be unanimous in how you arrive at this. You don't have to be unanimous in what crime was committed. It gives them like a buffet of options. If you can just sort of kind of agree, that something was committed, then I'll take that. Guys, I've been in a lot of courtrooms, and I want to tell you, this is not the way the American court system is designed. This is not how it's supposed to work. This should chill us to the bone in America that this has been allowed. Now then, today, the jury has deliberated yesterday afternoon and today, came in just a little while ago with a verdict of guilty. We don't know of what. The crime still has not been clarified. Guilty on all 34 counts, which basically was one thing that was broken up into 34 little pieces. So now the narrative from the left can be, going into election season, that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. That's all they wanted. All of this will be reversed on appeal. There are so many errors. There are so many issues with this case that will be, if any judge, if any appellate court is worth their salt, there are 1,000 reasons this case should be completely overturned. It should have been dismissed. It should have never been brought. But the fact that it was allowed to play out, this circus, this obvious biased circus was allowed to play out. Now they have that narrative that's all they wanted. They really don't care if the case was true. They really don't care if it gets overturned, because it's not going to even be brought to the appellate court until after the election is over. They don't care. All they wanted was to be able to say, Donald Trump's a convicted felon. They don't care how. They don't care how. Now, I am absolutely disgusted by this, as you should be. I'm disgusted by it not only for Trump's sake. God bless the man. They have if you ever want to know if Trump's clean or not. I'm not saying the man's a saint. Okay. I'm not saying that. But he's the most investigated person on the planet. They have tried and tried and tried and tried to bring him down. If this is what they had to do it, make stuff up, bring in liars and porn stars to corroborate some story that they just literally dreamed up, and with all kinds of witnesses able to debunk it, but not allowing them. I mean, if this is the kind of stuff they have to cook up to try to take him down, we should feel pretty safe that they don't really have much to do it. If they have to literally make stuff up and lie and contort it and twist it and mold it and stack the deck against it. I mean, if ever you believed in Trump at any point, this should this should secure it. Because if they had anything real to bring him down on, they would do it. They literally have to make it up. They literally have to stretch and twist themselves into pretzels to find something to be able to get some headline, Trump convicted. I am just, so I'm disgusted because of that. But I'm absolutely in shock that America has fallen to this level. I just can't believe that we saw this play out in the United States of America. Our founding fathers are rolling in their graves today. So our response to this, I'm angry. I am, I just cannot believe how far we've fallen as a nation. But at the same time, through this anger, we have to channel it properly. Okay? We have to channel this properly. We cannot give in to the emotion. We have to reel that in, and we have to channel this in a productive and a healthy way. The only way that I can wrap my head around this today and to try to help guide you when I'm still reeling from it is just to go back to our Bible. God allows things to happen for a reason, even injustices and even unfair and disgusting things. He allows that. His ways are not our ways, and this will work for good in some way. I have to believe that. I have to believe that verse in Romans. We have to believe that all things are working together for good. The thing may not be good. What just happened today is not good, but God can bring good from it. This should fire up the Trump base like nothing we've ever seen. Because here's why. We can't let them get away with it on election day. We cannot let them get away with it. So we have to become so savvy in the way that we interact with people around this discussion, and savvy in how we approach this conversation, because we have to motivate people to turn out in November. If we do not turn out in November, first Trump, then the rest of us. If they can do this to an American president, what can they do to the American citizen, the average everyday American citizen? With Trump and all his resources and all of his popularity and all of his money, all the ability that he has to fight something like this, what can the average American do? And if they decide to target you or me, how in the world would we fight it? We cannot sit home on election day. We have to turn out. So let's talk about our response to this. Maybe I'm stalling because I'm still trying to formulate it in my own mind. I'm just so angry. I think maybe what I said earlier might help when we're talking with people, just reminding them that, hey, if there was anything, I think you understand the basics of the case now. You can go back and you can say, if there was actually anything to get him on, why did they have to resort to a stacked deck? Why did they have to completely violate the rule of law? And I want to tell you something else too. In our Sixth Amendment in our Constitution, go and read it, pull it up, Google it and read it. We are supposed to have a guarantee of a free and non-biased trial. We are supposed to have a fair, the ability to have a fair trial if we are brought up on charges. What is fair? So maybe that's something we can say. What is fair about a biased judge in a biased district with a biased DOJ and absolutely no ability for him to defend himself in court? What is fair about that? Rule of law is our load-bearing wall, and it has just taken one heck of a beating today. So that would be one thing you can ask people in your lingering questions is you can say, please tell me what is fair about what I just said, a crime out of the jurisdiction of a DA who's an activist in a very biased district with a very biased, politically compromised judge. How do you feel like he could get a fair trial there with a very biased jury? How in the world is that fair? So it's a massive violation of our Sixth Amendment. Massive violation of that. There are also cases like the Letitia James case when they fined him, $600 million. That it's never been done. In our Constitution, we're also protected from unfair and unusual fines. I mean, extraordinary fines. He has taken so many hits and that are so unconstitutional. I mean, we could just go down the list. But I would ask people that say, do you feel like he got a fair trial? Do you feel like he got a fair trial in a very partisan district with a partisan judge and a partisan DOJ? Do you feel like he got a fair trial? That would be one way we could ask. So if he couldn't get a fair trial, what makes us think we could get one? There are a lot of ways we can approach this, but I think that roping in that anger, channeling it, making sure that we don't feed the division, and standing by him on this because it was so rigged. It's so obvious it was so rigged. Basically, what they did is they sold out our rule of law for a headline to help them politically. Think about that. That's what just happened here today. The rule of law was completely undermined. The rule of law was completely thrown out just to wound him so that they could politically hope that it would benefit them, because Biden's poll numbers are in the toilet. He cannot win fair and square. He cannot win fair and square. Trump is leading him in the polls in almost every swing state, because you can look at the two administrations side by side and you can grade them. Remember when I did that podcast a few weeks ago on grading the American president, how to grade the American president? You can ask people in your discussion, if you were to hold up both administrations side by side, who gets the A and who gets the F? How do you grade the American president? And look at your life. How is your life different then versus now? And the division that has been exacerbated in our country. I mean, Biden was the one who was supposed to unify us and bring the decorum back and all that. We are more divided than ever now. How do you explain that? The hatred toward Trump when he was in office, from the first time he came down the golden escalator in Trump Tower and announced he was running, from the very first minute that he raised his hand for the presidency, they have been trying to take him down. And they've gone to extremes to do it. You look at other candidates, Hillary Clinton, look at even Biden. I mean, they were spies in Trump's campaign. There were the whole Russia thing, them trying to say he was a Russian operative. That was all completely disproven. Not only that, but it showed that Hillary Clinton was behind the dossier. She was behind the whole thing, setting him up to make it look like that. All that's been brought out. You want to talk about election interference and suppression. When the Hunter Biden laptop was about to be released just ahead of the election, they squashed it, said it was disinformation, wouldn't let the American people see it. All the social media platforms squashed it and said it was not. And now it is the single piece of evidence coming forward now into the Hunter Biden trials next week that start. We found out it was absolutely not disinformation. It was absolutely true. So there's been so much worse. But you can't compare. when you have a Department of when you have a lot of bureaucrats that are loyal to a particular party for whatever reason, there I have a lot of reasons I think they are. But when you have that, and Trump is the one that's trying to come in and dismantle that, they come out with the clause. They have come out with the clause. No, none of the swamp monsters want to go. They're real comfortable in their swamp. He's trying to clean it out. They don't want him in there. I mean, their livelihoods are on the line. They don't want him in there. They are going to do everything they possibly can to defeat him. That he was in the presidency once. I've said this a lot, that now that he's been out for the last few years, now he's had a chance to, he really hadn't had a chance to catch his breath because he's still enduring so much. But being away from it now, if he gets a chance to go back in, now he knows where all the bodies are buried. Now he knows exactly what to do to go in and clean it up. I think the first time it's a learning curve. This time he's a veteran. He knows what to do to go back in and clean it up, and they are terrified of him. So they have to twist and contort all these things to try to take him down in a very ugly and devious way. So please don't buy it. I'm telling you, there are so many people. I'm not just getting my information from the news. There are a lot of people that I trust that are up close and personal to this, that have given me a lot of different viewpoints around this. So this is not me repeating talking points that I'm hearing on the news. This is a lot of personal inside information that I've been able to hear from people who are close to this. And I can tell you that all of it is lawfare. And I don't want you to believe it. I don't want you to believe it. And we have to channel our anger, because our country, it's not even about Trump. Take his name out of it. It's about our country at this point. It's about the rule of law. It's about that load-bearing wall. Y'all, if our justice system can be weaponized against our political opponents, what separates us from third world countries? In America, we are supposed to have inalienable rights. We are supposed to have human dignity. We are supposed to have limited government. We are supposed to have rule of law. All these things I talk about, all these load-bearing walls. This is what is enshrined. This is our inheritance in this country. We have to protect it. So we don't get to just lay down and say, oh, our world's going to pot. What can I do? No, we have to get on our knees and pray. We have to have really smart conversations. We have to channel our anger and our fear. We have to remember that God is on the throne, that God can intervene, but we need a drastic return to God. It is our only hope in this country. We need a drastic return to God. We need to run to him with repentant hearts. God cannot be more serious. We have to clean our own house up. We have to be in obedience to him. We have to repent and turn away from the things that are not honoring to him. And then we have to influence the people around us to do the same. We have to win people back to our values. We have to help them understand. We have to plant the seeds, and then we've got to drop the lingering questions. I always talk about this because our children and our grandchildren are counting on us. We do not want them to be under tyranny. I know this is hard. We have to pick our hard, y'all. It's hard to hold your tongue. It's hard to repent. It's hard to look in the mirror and say, I need to clean my own life up. It's hard to be in obedience and it goes against things you want. It's hard to do that. I get it. But it's so much harder to watch our country fall apart and our children to grow up in a nation that where their freedom has been robbed from them. I am begging you. Get my book. Get the Lady Up America book. Start a book club in your living room. I was going to roll this out in next week, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you all about it now. Start a book club. I just made a workbook to go along with it. Invite 5, 8, 10 women into your living room. Go through this book together. Go through the workbook and do the techniques. Apply the techniques, role play them, practice them, and then deploy out. You go out into the world then and start having these powerful conversations. It's all in the book, everything. So you bring 5, 10 women into your living room who believe the same way you do, who are on the same page with you spiritually. The book is short. Okay, go through it, master the techniques together. Then those 5 or 10, they go start their own living room book club. They invite 5 to 10. We can scale this so fast, so fast. If we would do this, then you practice together, right? You have a support system of people that you know and love. And then you practice this together. And then you go out now and you have these tools to go engage in these conversations with people who have opposing views, the people that you meet at the mailbox, and your neighbors, the people that you work with, your clientele, whatever, the people that, that are on the soccer field next to you, the people, your family around the kitchen table at night. Now you'll have powerful tools on how to influence. Y'all, this is not a drill. We gotta lady up. We gotta master these techniques at scale, and we've got to turn out for this election. This is the most crucial election of our lifetime. Lady up, please. I love you. I'll see you next week. Actually, I won't see you next week. My family's coming into town, and so I'm going to be taking all next week off to just spend my time with them. So I'll see you back week after next. In the meantime, start a book club. Email me and let me know you've done it. This is not a drill. Lady up.
Lady up around this house. Lady up around